Hey everybody, we're going to get started here in just a few minutes. We're just waiting for people to get in. If you haven't already, please like the live stream and share it too. It's really good to see everybody. So I'm looking forward today. It's such a spooky topic. So yeah, I always wanted to do this. All right, what do you think? Should we get it? Should we get it going? Should we get her going? All right, nice with the purple faces. Or red demon faces, depending on what if you're on an iPhone or an Android. The demon faces may be red or purple. Ready, ready, Freddy. And just so you know, that t-shirt design is available at mindfulmonad.com. And let's go to Big Face, and here we are. Hello, I'm Jan Erickson. This is my channel, Mindful Monad, where I talk about Hyperianism and self-actualization. And I do a lot of live streams where I react to various different kinds of content to find the Hyperion takeaway, or just simply entertain. So today is our Monday live stream. We focus on like religion and philosophy and things like that, and just like take a look at lots of different interesting things just to break apart the ideas or disturb ourselves, as in the case of today is pretty much what's happening here in the case of covering the Heaven's Gate cult. And one reason why I wanted to cover this cult in particular is because I remember it being a situation that happened that really, like, I don't know, creeped me out. When was Hale-Bopp? Let's see. Hale-Bopp Comet. Because it happened with Hale-Bopp Comet. Because you have to understand, this is one of those weird cults that, like, was really into, like, UFOs and stuff. The Hale-Bopp Comet. The last time it was here, yeah, it was like 95? No, I swear it was later than that. Let's see. When did that happen? I'm trying to pinpoint, like, how old I was. 1997. Okay. That happened in 1997. How old was I in 97? Oh my god, I was 9. I was 9 years old, and I remember the Heaven's Gate incident. Cassie, thank you. Cassie, thank you. Cassie's like, we were 9. Yeah, no, so 9 years old, Hale-Bopp Comet, and Heaven's Gate incidents where it was just a cult of people that ended up committing group unaliving, as I should say. But anyways, yes, so that's what we're going to talk about today, because it's just so weird, and they have some weird beliefs, and yeah. So anyways, before we get into that, let's just say, like, hello to everybody, because it's so nice to see you here on Monday. Boy, what a weekend. Let's see, we of course have Cassie here. Thank you so much for coming. And Philip, we got our 2 moderators in the house today. We got Zero, I see you. Good to see you. We got Eva Blue Rose. We got Renaissance Fairy. We got Rebecca, hello. Lisa Zawacki. Velveteers, hello. Good to see you. Cassidy. Adam Abraxas. Laura LaFleur. Hello. Wow. We got a nice chunky little house today. Scroll up. Let's see. I see Paul Cherry. I see Dahlia. Hey, Mark. How's it going? Mark says, I was old enough to buy my own Reeboks for Heaven's Gate, but I refused the self-castration part. Greetings all. Yes, this cult is really intense. They do really intense bodily harm, like self-castration and stuff like that. they want to, like, this cult group, like, in their ideology wants to get rid of gender altogether and just be completely genderless. It's really weird. Hope! Good to see you, Hope. Let's go to our viewing content. Because, like, I just want to get into it. So, let's see. Turn off our music. We don't need our music right now. Yeah, it is insane. Okay, so this is like, there's something about cults that air around the 70s, whether it be like early, like late 60s, early 70s, but even a little bit into like early 80s. I don't know. There's something about retro cults that just take the aesthetic so far. So far. They are into that. Like, I don't really see that much shit going on these days. At least not before me. But, like, when you look at, like, cult stuff back in the 70s and shit, like, dang. It was very stylistic. So, I've got like so many tabs open here. Like, so we're just gonna skim through some stuff and give you a rundown and just like get to the juicy parts. But Heaven's Gate was an American new religious movement, often described as a cult. Um, just so you guys know, at the time, this cult was like a weird, like it's kind of like a new age Christianity, but then super infused with sci-fi stuff. So it's not like they were a group literally searching for evidence of UFOs or things like that. It's like they knew they were there, and they knew they believed the UFOs were there, and that was like a key to helping them transcend into another like evolutionary stage beyond human. And the way these people talk about being beyond human is vastly different than the way Hyperianism talks about being beyond human. The way Hyperianism talks about being beyond human is a much more practical way, a much more practical evolution. It's not like you do A, B, and C, and suddenly you transcend within your lifetime. Like, no. These people, I don't know. The actual leader himself that founded this, what was his name? Marshall Applewhite. Man, what a weird dude. Marshall Applewhite, born on May 17th, 1931, and then died in 1997, obviously, because he died with his followers. So, he was the one that founded the Heaven's Gate religious group and organized their mass suicide in 1997, uh, which was the largest mass suicide to occur in the US. I think that's why it was such a big deal. Wasn't there another one, though, that's happened since then? I swear. Or was that in like a different country? I swear it was like similar to Heaven's Gate, but it was like almost like a whole village of people. Hmm. As a young man, Applewhite attended several universities and served in the United States Army. He initially pursued a career in education until he resigned from the University of St. Thomas in Houston, Texas, in 1970. Um, Citing emotional turmoil. His father's death a year later brought on severe depression. Yeah, so I was watching this. I can't remember what documentary I was watching. It was like deep diving into this guy's life. He had a really bad relationship with his father, like so much so, and he was also a closet homosexual. This guy Marshall Applewhite was, and that was a big part of him that he just completely denounced, like that his father denied. And when his father um, died, he took that denial to the death, and so he really internalized that for the rest of his life. And I think that was a big precursor to his weird, like, thing, like, where you castrate yourself and make yourself essentially androgynous, both the men and women. Oh, yeah. Okay, so you guys are saying Jonestown? Was it Jonestown? Something like that. Yeah. In 1972, Applewhite developed a close friendship with Bonnie Nettles, a nurse. Together, they discussed mysticism at length and concluded that they were called as divine messengers. They just concluded. We were just having a chat about mysticism, and we're like, you know what? We're divine messengers. So, anyways, they operated a bookstore and a teaching center for a short while and then began to travel around the U.S. in 1973 to spread their views. They gained only one convert in 1975. Applewhite was arrested for failing to return a rental car and was jailed for 6 months. Jeez. I don't think I would want to be jailed for that. That's kind of a dumb thing to be jailed for. At least go out in style. Anyways, in jail he further developed his theology. Well, when you got a lot of time on your hands. Let's see. After Applewhite's release, he and Nettles traveled to California and Oregon, eventually gaining a group of committed followers. They told their followers that they would be visited by extraterrestrials who would provide them with new bodies. Applewhite initially said that he and his followers would physically ascend to a spaceship where their bodies would be transformed, but later he came to believe that their bodies were the mere containers of their souls, which would later be placed into new bodies. These ideas were expressed with the language drawn from Christian, I don't know how to pronounce that word, and New Age movement in American popular culture. So, that's a lot. You know, what's so alarming too is just the jump from like, well, we're gonna be like Scotty's gonna beam us up, okay? And then later on just decides like, no, our bodies are just like containers. Which, I mean, I get that. I mean, it's like in Hyperianism, we say we are monads, we are connected to our bodies, but please stay in your body. Our bodies are good. Obviously, they will expire, but your body is necessary to have experiences in and navigate through the holos. That is the playground in which we evolve and grow and learn. Let's see. Do. All right, we'll finish reading this paragraph here. Heaven's Gate received an influx of funds in the late 1970s, which used to pay housing and other expenses. In 1985, Nettles died. She didn't die? No, she did die. Oh, duh, she died before. Sorry, my timeline is like totally messed up in my head. Anyways, leaving Applewhite distraught and challenging his views on physical ascension. In the early 1990s, the group took more steps to publicize their theology. In 1996, they learned of the approach of Comet Hale-Bopp. See, this is where it gets connected with the comet. So, 1996, they learned of the Comet Hale-Bopp and rumors of an accompanying spaceship. This is the part that scared the shit out of me when I was 9 years old, because I was also just simultaneously like getting into like astronomy, and so when the comet came, I'm like, oh, this is really fucking cool, like, you know. And then like this story drops when all that was going down, and I remember this specific detail of there being like a UFO behind the comet. And for some reason, I just like, yeah, oh my god, there's a UFO behind the comet. Like, it just scared me to fucking death as a kid, and I'd have nightmares about it and stuff. But again, I was 9, so. Anyways, there was an accompanying spaceship concluding that it was the vessel that would take their spirits on board for a journey to another planet, believing that their souls would ascend to the spaceship and be given new bodies. The group members committed mass suicide in their mansion. The media circus followed the discovery of their bodies. In the aftermath, commentators and academics discussed how how Applewhite persuaded people to follow his commands, including the suicide. Some commentators attributed his followers' willingness to commit that to his skill as a manipulator, while others argued that their willingness was due to their faith in the narrative that he constructed. So, was it the man himself, or was it the narrative that he constructed that was responsible? That's an interesting question. What do you guys think? Would you think it's the leader or the narrative? Is that Elise? Hello, Elise. Yes, hello, everybody who's just coming in. We're talking about Heaven's Gate. Let's see. Who do I see? I see Perry. Let's see. I see Pepper. Hello. Scrolling up. Hello, Morg. Let's see. Heretical Response. Pooks. Cassidy. Maria. I think I've said hello to some of you before, but if, just pretend it's new. So it's really creepy. This guy who just like totally over time, but this is like over time. I don't know. You really have, I mean, this was a traveling cult too. You really have to grab people when they're feeling low. Should we take a look at some of the creepiness? I want to see it because like I found like the Heaven's Gate, like the recruiting video. Should we get recruited? No. I don't know if that's okay to jest about. I'm being ironic. Let's see. Turn this up a bit.
Classroom, or in old language, a couple thousand years ago, disciples. Those who are trying to prepare themselves for entry.
First of all, love the VHS. Second of all, what the fuck is with his eyes?
Into the evolutionary level above human, synonymous with the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven.
We're going to become beyond human into the kingdom of God. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Sorry. We're here to become beyond human, all right. But that's like the very phrase of us saying we want to become beyond human is not like literal like this guy's trying to peddle. Like he's literally like, no, you need to like pass right now and then we become beyond human. It's like, no. Oh my God. Let's see. Hey, there's Susan. Hi, Susan. Susan says, hey, everybody, I'm here, but I have to work, so I can't chat. Just listen. Okay. I'll be sure to scream very loud occasionally, just to keep you on your toes. Now this guy is, but like, so, I don't like this at all, but the aesthetic, the VHS old school aesthetic, I love. Susan, scream if you need me. Yeah.
We're going to talk to you about the most urgent thing that is on our mind and what we suspect is the most urgent thing on the minds of those who will connect with us.
My chocolate supply running out? Because that's honestly the most urgent thing on my mind right now. The chocolate supply is running out.
We'll title this tape Planet Earth About to be Recycled.
Okay, first of all, he just made that up on the spot, and I want another take with that because, I don't know, I don't think that has a ring to it. Recycled? I don't know about that, Chief. He looks straight out of Star Trek Next Generation. Does he not? Does he not look like straight out of Star Trek Next Generation? Like, how are we not watching this from, like, we're watching this from the bridge on the giant TV. I'm in my captain's chair. Yeah, recycled. Like, what?
Your only chance to evacuate is to leave with us. Planet Earth about to be recycled. Your only chance to survive or evacuate is to leave with us. Now,
That's such a weird, like, urgent. Yeah, doomsday currently. Like, this shit's gonna happen. You will die if you don't come with us. Like, what the fuck? Eva, Eva's like, dem eyeballs. No, seriously, those look balls are gonna pop out right at us and grab us. Like, they're gonna pop out like freaking Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Like, his eyes are gonna be like, get over here! And, like, stick to your head and, like, draw you in and suck your soul out.
that's pretty major statement, pretty bold in terms of religion, in terms of anybody's intelligent thinking. To most people who would consider themselves intelligent beings, they'd say, well, that's absurd. What's all this doomsday stuff? What's all this prophetic stuff? You know,
Throw in a little self-awareness to get your recruiters in good.
intelligent human beings should realize that everything has their cycle. They have their season. They have their beginning. They have their end. They have cycles. We're not saying that planet Earth is coming to an end.
Okay.
We're saying that planet Earth is about to be refurbished, spaded under, and have another chance to serve as a garden for another human civilization.
Okay, it's not going anywhere, but I don't like the way he's talking about it. He seems very matter-of-factly. Do we want to keep watching this, or do we want to, like, get into some, like, more info? He really needs to blink. Yeah, no, he really does. Like, my eyeballs are drying out just looking at him. Okay, just a little bit more.
Now, the reason this is such an interesting time is not only because we're on the threshold of the end of this civilization, because it's about to be recycled, but because of where that finds us, where that finds you, where that finds those who would judge us, how we would speak of them and how they would speak of us.
What?
Now, you say, you
What?
keep saying us. Who do you think you are? Well, I, in all honesty, must acknowledge my father. My father is not a human father.
Okay. But his real dad died, and his real dad totally dejected him for being gay. So do we see where we're getting here? We have some shadow with the father going on.
My father is a member of the evolutionary level above human, the kingdom of God.
He's got operating Thetan level eyebrow control. Uh, yeah. People commonly refer to daddy issues. I personally dislike the term daddy issues a lot, so I personally don't use that. I just like to say shadow issues with the father. The reason I don't like, and I'm not like gonna growl at anybody who uses it. I mean, maybe a little bit, but the reason I don't like the term daddy issues is because I feel like it's primarily a term used to, like, a derogatory term to describe women who have been abused and therefore are vulnerable. So it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like, it's like, I get like what we really mean when we say daddy issues, but like, I don't know. Yeah, Dahlia, shadow issues. He's got shadow issues. Yeah. But yeah, anyways,
Kingdom of heaven.
the kingdom of heaven.
My father gave me, long before this civilization, gave me birth into that kingdom level above human, that kingdom of heaven, that kingdom of God. Now you can say, well, I can't believe that. Well, it's up to you whether you a possibility of a future beyond this recycling time. Now you say, well, according to religious literature, I thought there was someone else that was going to come and be our Savior here at these end days, that was going to be Christ's return. Well, the name Christ might be a little confusing, or the name Jesus, because the name Jesus, of course, was the name.
Do you think he's reading? Do you think he's reading, or do you think he's just like off the top of his fucking head, like just going like nuts right now?
I am the return of the Son of my Father.
Okay.
I'll tell you something that's even more
so is like 50 other figures in human history. Like, there's like so many figures in human history that ascribe to like essentially the Jesus archetype, like the Jesus story, like just let's see some of the okay, let me see, get rid of him directly. Let's dig a little bit more real quick into what they believe. Okay, interesting. Humanity's next step in Heaven's Gate. Comets are fantastic celestial bodies that have captured our attention for centuries. And the rarer the comet, the more excitement it generates. So when Hale-Bopp comet passed within our view for 18 months in 1996 through 1997, it brought with it the end of Heaven's Gate time on Earth. Heaven's Gate was a religious group and later cult founded by Marshall Applewhite, the wide-eyed dude that we just saw, and his wife, Bonnie Nettles, which, she died before all this. But they believed that a spaceship followed behind the Hale-Bopp comet and would be their key to graduation from the human evolutionary level, and that they would ascend to some higher being, how and when it may be entered, on March 19th through the 20th in 1997. That, bro, harsh, that's around my birthday, dude. My birthday was March 23rd. My birthday's March 23rd. Oh, my birthday? Jeez, traumatized on my birthday. Come on. Anyways, to briefly describe the beliefs of Heaven's Gate members, its members thought that Earth was to be essentially restarted, and the only way to save their consciousness would be to ascend to a next level that Applewhite and Nettles themselves belonged to, originally believing that a spaceship would come and deliver them to this next level. Nettles' death in the 80s caused a slight shift that they would have to part with their bodies and humanity in order to ascend. Okay, so when this guy met his wife, and or met this girl, and they got together and got married, they were so into mysticism that they literally just fantasized that they were children of alien beings that were chosen to help humanity ascend beyond human. The thing is when she was still alive, when Nettles was still alive, the plan was like, we literally, like, physically with our bodies go into a spaceship. But when she passed away, I think that fucked with it. Like, his brain wasn't already fucked, but like that really like sent him off the edge. And it changed from like you go in your physical body into the spaceship to you have to ascend by leaving your physical body, which is just insanity. Like, that's absolute insanity. That just sounds like grief, Absolutely grief-stricken right there. This culminated in the belief in the ship following Hale-Bopp that by willing to leave their bodies when the comet passed close to Earth, they would reach this ascension. Psychiatrist Mark Gallanter and other scholars even stated that standard society generally accepted many of the concepts Applewhite based the cult's ideas from. The groups, which is that great. That makes me feel comfy. God, stupid people scare the shit out of me, I'll tell you what. The group started in the 70s. Yep, right at that peak of age. 70s, right during the UFO craze, too. Oh, and it was the UFO craze. Yeah. What a great combination. You know, that it's really evil because, I mean, people died. But, see, this is why I wish people could get into cults for, like, non dangerous reasons, like destroying themselves or their lives or their families. Like, because just having a 1970s styled, like, group to attend with just talk about UFOs sounds pretty dope. It actually sounds like a club, nightclub, honestly. I think I just want a nightclub. That's what I'm describing. Yeah. A 1970s culty UFO themed nightclub. That's what I want. So, yeah, so belief in extraterrestrials was not uncommon. People were doing a lot of drugs then, too. So, also the idea of a higher existence or heaven was and still is the backbone for the major religions that Applewhite pulled from. The typical member accepted many of these ideas in isolation, but were particularly intrigued by the way Applewhite and Nettles had combined them, death and dying. The facts against the belief are plentiful without even delving into some of the more ridiculous claims. Yeah, that's where you could just, like, it slide down the hole. Um, and this is why it's so important to learn how to think reasonably. Um, it's not just, and it's for some maybe it's something that just comes to you, but it's like you can learn to think with reason. Reason is like a mathematical application. Like something either is or isn't, or let's see. The facts against the belief are plentiful. Blah 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 blah. No evidence would support the existence of higher human plane, let alone that Applewhite and Nettles came from it. Yeah, exactly. And no evidence has been found that alien life even existed or visited us. Well, certainly not with Hale-Bopp comment. So, do we get what's going on here? How weird this is. Weirdness. The UFO Disco Club. Yes, Elise. I like that a lot. Let's see, what do we got? Eva Blue Rose says this is a prime example of how the shadow can become extremely dangerous if not addressed. Yes, here's the thing, and I've said this a billion times, and I'll say it a billion times more. If you do not integrate your shadow or address your shadow issues or take a look at your shadows or do your shadow work, and you start integrating your power self parts where you put yourself out there as a leader and push your ideas out there and stuff, you're pushing your broken shadow shit on everybody. 100%. You're just going to be stuck in a loop of projection and you're going to turn into an asshole. It just doesn't work. Do your shadow work. That's how you become a true altruistic leader that actually helps humanity and uplifts humanity instead of runs them into an insane circus. I want more retro stuff.
The approaching millennium has fanned the flames of a curious phenomenon: UFO cults. A synthesis of mainstream religion and cutting-edge science fiction. The belief in these technological angels comes from a long history of mankind's faith in a divine plan for the universe. The emergence of these UFO-obsessed groups became news around the world.
This is the kind of footage that I remember seeing as a kid that really like freaked me out, seeing all these people lay in the beds. And the thing is like when it came time for them to transcend, I guess, they were all made to dress the same and wear a certain like pair of tennis shoes, and I think it was Reebok or something, tennis shoes. And they would all lay down and sip this drink. I believe it was cyanide they gave them.
When 39 members of the Heaven's Gate cult committed suicide in Rancho Santa Fe, California in 1997. Survivors of Heaven's Gate provide true stories which read like sci-fi novels. A cult leader's daughter tells of her mother's search for UFOs.
It's true.
A mother of a suicide victim describes her son's alien transformation. Members of another group,
I mean, I'm still waiting for my alien transformation. I really kind of want to get into this, but it's so long. I don't know. This might be a two-parter.
Is it simply the human need to believe in the unexplained?
A moment ago when I said that the big surprise could come, that spacecrafts could come in by the
Dude, you look like you haven't stopped being surprised for like 10 years.
thousands, maybe come in shifts.
In March 1997, Marshall Applewhite, the leader of Heaven's Gate, told his followers there was a UFO in the tail of the Hale-Bopp comet, which orbits the Earth once every 2,000 years. He convinced them that this was their signal to board the flying saucer, which would take them into eternity.
Oh, I love these graphics. Let's see. Laura LaFlora says it was Nike shoes. Oh, it was Nikes, and it was not cyanide, but it was a poison, and it was mixed with vodka. Oh, Jim Jones was the one who used the cyanide. Easy to confuse. Well, you know, I can't keep my suicidal cults straight, you know.
In order to catch this ride, the 39 cult members committed suicide by a combination of phenobarbital, alcohol.
Phenobarbital. What the fuck is that? Barbital. Phenobarbital. It's used to control seizures. It's also used to relieve anxiety. It's also used to prevent withdrawal system. Oh, so it's like, what? Did they just, like, overdose on that shit? Barbiturate. Barbiturate. Is it this one? No, it just brings me back to the original thing.
And suffocation. For reasons that still remain unanswered, they wore Nike running shoes, sported buzz haircuts.
Barbiturate. Okay. Oh. Okay, Mark says it's super deadly in combination with some other things, relaxes body's natural defenses to slipping away. Oh, okay. So, something that is good in moderation, but when overused and mixed with vodka is a dangerous combination.
And carried
Sounds like a party.
$5 of quarters in their pockets. This tragedy
What?
was the culmination of 22 years of behavior modification under Marshall Applewhite's spell. What once started out as a grassroots Christian sect evolved into a dark millennial cult with beliefs in aliens and Armageddon.
So when they presented the picture of being able to literally leave in a craft, so to speak, which they were saying was similar to what Jesus did. He actually left in a physical body. When they overlaid that with modern day technological information, like that cloud of light was a UFO, it all lined up for me.
I mean, I guess I don't really. Sorry, I don't agree with this guy personally. I don't see the difference between believing in something like religious like that and then just like speculatively assigning um an identity or just a value to something that you don't exactly understand all the way. Does that make sense? It's like, well, like the sun's a god. Like the sun's there. I see the sun. It's like, yeah, but it's not a god. Like there's a complicated way in which it operates. It's like there's like really no difference. So this guy's trying to say like, well, it made sense to me because there was something physical to have. It's like, well, no, I don't really see the difference, even if you're looking at something physical. Because in Hyperianism, we're not looking at anything physical.
Early on, Marshall Applewhite and his co-leader Bonnie Nettles had convinced themselves and their followers that they were God's emissaries, here to lead humanity out of a corrupt world. Applewhite said he and Nettles had come from outer space, taking on human bodies as camouflage. They offered salvation to members who could overcome their attachment to human desires such as sex, money, and drugs. Where did this desperate and bizarre mixture of sci-fi and millennial madness begin? Before Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Lou Nettles became so-called alien agents, they were living separate lives of quiet
Alien
desperation.
agents.
Their twisted partnership began some 25 years earlier in Houston. Bonnie's daughter, Terry Nettles, recalls when she was 14 years old. She and her mother would stand in their backyard,
Pig says I fell out of my
searching
UFO.
the skies for UFOs, hoping they
Welcome
would
home,
be
Cassie.
transported.
It would be really neat if one would come and pick us up and take us away, because neither one of us really felt like we were part of this world, that we were always on the outside looking in. And we used to dream about that a lot. We wanted something different.
At the same time, in
I
nearby
mean,
Corpus
so many people, in fact, a lot of people, it's not a unique thing to feel like you don't belong to this world. And I don't mean that in a way that if you feel like you don't belong to this world, like that means you're not like part of the status quo, like the sheeple or whatever. Like that's true, like, you know, but it's like not feeling like you belong to this world or you're a part of this world. Like that's so common. I mean, for God's sakes, we're all the monads, we're all the souls, and we are occupying our bodies. But this whole holos, this is not like optimum living, you know. This is not optimal right now. This is why we're striving towards the teleological end, the final cause. But this is like, yeah, of course, I don't feel like I belong here. Yeah, it's a, like as Mark says, it's a very powerful emotional appeal to young and idealistic and the outcast, you know, to not feel like you belong in this world. But that is something that can be navigated through. That is not a very abstract thing that has no end until you choose it. Like, you can reason through that, and you can objectively reason through that and deduce, like, what's going to help you in the long run and what you're going to waste your life away on. That's a very interesting conversation. I think I would like to talk about that in the future.
Christie, Marshall Applewhite's perfect life began to unravel. His 16-year marriage dissolved, and his career as a college music professor ended when he was accused of a sexual relationship with a male student. Then Applewhite met Bonnie Lou Nettles.
See, that I think this documentary. I swear I swear the Illuminati did it better. She's also got a shorter thing. What time is it? 4:55. Yeah, we got a little bit. Let's get into the and I don't mean I'm talking about Illuminati as a double I and double I at the end, like literally the YouTuber. So, I'm kind of curious. Hers shorter. I brought hers up. I was gonna get into this longer one, but I think she actually gets into more of like why he is the way he is. So, anyway, sorry for jumping around. Let's see. Skip all that.
Heaven's Gate, a UFO religious group based near San Diego, California. Not only will we talk about the history behind Heaven's Gate itself and what happened there, but we're going to get into how people fell for this cult in the first place.
See, that's what I want to get into.
A near-death experience in 1974 by a man named Marshall Applewhite. One source, History.com, states that the cult was led by Marshall Applewhite, a music professor who, after surviving a near-death experience in 1972, was recruited into the cult by one of his nurses, Bonnie Lou Nettles. However, almost every other source says that he founded and led Heaven's Gate, rather than was recruited into it, so that's what we're going to go with.
Interesting.
Now, moving...
Interesting. Why would there be conflicting sources about that? So was it really her the whole time? Really, it was the wife the whole time. Boom, boom, boom. She really had the whole cult made up. I bet you. Bet you $1 billion. We'll never know because they're gone. They've passed. Zero says, I wonder if there's a queue of monads waiting for available avatars. Could it take centuries or millennia to relocalize? I don't know. Because then when I think about that, I start thinking about, well, does that just pertain to, like, monads, like a certain set of monads per planet? Or, like, you know what I mean? And then what monads are evolved to what level? Because some monads are, like, in, like, an animal state, and... That's another really good conversation. Yeah, heretical response. The name Bonnie Blue Nettles. My name's Bonnie Blue Nettles. I've been a burlesque performer for 38 years. My name is Bonnie Blue Nettles. Sorry.
Back in time a bit into the late 60s, when Marshall was about 37 years old, that's where things began to fall apart for him. He and his wife divorced, and they had 2 children together. There were reports that he struggled with his sexual identity. One downright states that he was gay and even had affairs with his students as a music teacher.
Yep. See? Gay. Gay issues.
I didn't really believe...
Shadow issues. Totally. This is what happens when you swallow your shadow deep down inside. When you don't do your shadow work and you swallow it deep down inside, you become a cult leader, okay? You do, and you hurt people, okay? That's what happens. You will become a cult leader and die.
Leave this website at first. I mean, you know, they use Comic Sans, but the Rolling Stone also reported that he was fired as a music professor at the University of St. Thomas in 1970. And that was after administrators learned he had sex with a male student. Apparently, Applewhite even thought castration would be a cure to his homosexual urges, as they put it.
Yep, and that's where the whole castration starts, because it didn't end with him. It's like something that was suggested across the board for all the males in that cult, that men castrate themselves, and females also, like, dress more masculine, so it's like, it just becomes, like, one androgynous gender.
Now, obviously, back then, gay rights weren't what they are today. Marshall didn't need a cure for being attracted to men instead of women. It just shouldn't have been a student that he was attracted to.
Yeah.
Since this is university, I'm guessing at least they weren't underage, but given the student-teacher dynamic and all, it's
That's
still
still
a yikes
bad.
from me. Anyway, in 1970, he was out of work. His father died a year later and brought about severe depression. A year after that, in 1972, he had some trouble with his heart and ended up in the hospital, the near-death experience we mentioned earlier. Now, once again, there are some discrepancies.
See, that's what I didn't pick up on earlier, is she saying that he had Applewhite had like a near-death experience himself?
Here, CNN says he didn't leave his family until 1972, and Applewhite has said he was visiting a friend in the hospital when he met Nettles. It's his sister that described events differently. According to her, she says, he was living in Houston at the time, and he had some trouble with his heart and ended up in the hospital, and according to the nurses, had a near-death experience, she says. And one of those nurses convinced him that it was for a very special reason and that he could be used mightily in a group that she knew about.
Okay. I see. I'm trying to just examine, like, where this guy, like, went off his rocker. Like, having Harp just lost the father, went through all this shit, like, had the affair with, like, the student, lost the father, had a near-death experience. You're in the hospital, and then it's like, this nurse convinces you that it's special and you should be, like, part of a group.
Began seeing him and talking him more into joining this group, and then they became sort of co-leaders for a while, but he always considered her the senior leader. And I'm just... speculating.
That's me digesting the information. I don't know. It's almost like he was totally, like, in a way, like, groomed to be... I mean, in a way, we're all, like, shaped and groomed by society, by all of our influences and everything, but he really was just, like, stuck between a rock and a hard place, and then meeting this lady obviously didn't help, and I'm very curious now. I'm very curious as to why we're not really seeing much of, like, her background. Like, why does she, like, think about this shit? Don't get recruited into a cult by your nurse in a psych ward. Yes, please don't. Oh, interesting. Interesting. See, y'all know more than me.
Here when I say this, but this sounds like a man that simply wanted a higher purpose. He had lost his family, his father, he struggled with his identity, and possibly almost lost his life. Even if he was only in the hospital visiting a friend, there were enough tragedies in Marshall's life that it makes sense why he would turn to a cult. I'm not saying this excuses his actions at all. When I researched Albert Fish, it was never about finding a justification, because there is no justification for what these people have done. But at the same time, understanding those reasons or what may have led them down this path is important to recognize so we can better understand the next Marshall Applewhite or...
That's why I like to go over these kind of things. That's why I like to look into these weird, like, religions and cults and stuff and, like, look into weird ideologies, because people carry it so far as to where it just affects other people's right to self-actualization. And in that, something happens. A series of events happens. Something happens within a person's reality tunnel that just shapes them to be making those decisions. And I like to examine very closely the tiny key bits of information that shape and mold and form people to do this and influence other people and how those people are influenced, so that, like, we can examine that, we can learn about that, and you can learn how to recognize red flags earlier and earlier and earlier, and just not waste your time with damaging systems. And even further, as a Hyperion, I want to expose these kinds of systems and make sure they're taken down. Now, granted, Heaven's Gate is gone, but there's something important to be learned from this. Because it's like, how can anybody, like, get into this shit, right? Because it happens over time. It's never like something that people just jump into. It's just the right lighting, the right mood, the right everything, the right tone, and it appeals to you in exactly the way that it's meant to, and then, yeah, you're hooked. Jeez.
Albert
Scary stuff.
Fish that comes along. But back to the 1970s. Within a couple years of meeting, they were getting arrested together. In 1974, they were arrested in Harlingen, Texas, and charged with stealing credit cards and a car. They explained the items belonged to the husband of a member of their group. Soon after the arrest, Applewhite and Nettles cut off all ties with their families. He came to see us in Dallas, where we were living at the time, to tell us he was going off with this group and we would not hear from him again, she, Marshall's sister, said. And we, of course, tried to talk him out of it. I told him that this wasn't him, but he said, "You don't know the real me." In an amateur video,
You don't know the real me. I'm a special alien boy.
recording 2 years ago in Arizona, Applewhite described the reactions of family members of people who join his group. It seems to always cause all of the people in the periphery of your life to turn against you, think that you've lost your marbles, you've gotten duped by someone who has a spell on you and will lead you down a crooked path, he said. But yeah, Marshall's really not the one to be talking about leading people down crooked paths.
Yeah,
Again,
right.
I'm not so sure that this started off as anything malicious, but only Marshall and Bonnie know for sure what they were thinking. But things did start to take a turn for the worse pretty quickly, and it happened in 1975.
Cassie says the couple that gets arrested together are destined to hop in a comet together. Yes, I love it. It works in so many ways.
Up until 1975, I had a general understanding of where Marshall was coming from. While I don't agree with his theft, I can chalk it up to a midlife crisis, a downward spiral, a rough patch, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
It's not incredibly noteworthy or unusual is my point here. However, rather than
Hey, look, we all have downtimes. We all get pressured by the contents of our life experiences. We get pressured by the shit that's happening in the holos. We can't always escape from it. We have to go to work. We have to attend to our family things. We have to have our human lives, you know. And sometimes we get really beat up by our experiences. And sometimes, you know, you can let shit get to you and you can make some shitty decisions and you can be an asshole. Every once in a while, everybody has a moment where they're an asshole. Doing the shadow work is accepting those moments and getting through them and not doubling down. You know what I mean? Don't double down into the assholery. Do your shadow work, damn it. And eat your greens.
seek therapy, get help, or try and work through his issues in other ways, Marshall dug his heels in. During his 6 months in prison, he began trying to redefine the beliefs he shared with Nettles. They thought that they came from what they termed the level above human, a physical and literal version of heaven in outer space, and were sent to help others reach this next level. To them, the human body was just a vehicle, and that to ascend from this world, people had to separate from all that was human in themselves, including their earthly needs and desires. They believed that a UFO would soon take them back to the next level after completing their mission. Now, obviously, I can't diagnose Marshall. I'm not a doctor. I don't know exactly what led to these beliefs or what made him think this way. What I do know is that
Look, people just believe weird shit. I don't see. I wouldn't even. I mean, I don't think it's healthy to just believe anything, obviously. But there's so many like factors that go into like why somebody believes the things they do. So I can't like just chalk it up to just pure insanity by itself. That definitely has some influence in there, you know. You got to be a little mad to like accept some things, but it's like Jesus Christ.
antisocial personality disorder comes in many, many forms, and
People really are addicted to beliefs. Beliefs are addictive. And even when you're somebody who believes in very rational things about the universe, about your purpose and everything like that, or whatever, you know, you can still have beliefs within that. You can still have beliefs as a Hyperion. You know, sometimes I have doubts in myself, and those doubts are literal beliefs, like, you know, thinking that I can't do something. I've got no proof of that until I try it and work on it and produce, you know, whatever it is I want to produce. You can have false beliefs about yourself. It's not always applicable to your external world, to how you're seeing everybody. It can also apply to your internal world as well.
multiple sites state that they believe Marshall fell on the spectrum somewhere. In an old video I made about power and control changing people, I talked about high-ranking figures being considered psychopaths, or the more extreme end of this antisocial personality disorder, and it's a term people recognize.
I want to watch that shit. See, this is why I highly... this is the only Illuminati I'm going to recommend to you, is this YouTuber. She's so fantastic. Like, I learn a lot. But taking a look at like corporate leaders and stuff and finding like commonalities about them kind of being sociopaths, I mean, that's a thing. That's a thing. I mean, you really have to be cut off from a lot of emotion to make a corporate run like an entity. Tough shit.
And Marshall Applewhite, it seems, was in a mental state associated with narcissism or a messiah complex at the very least. Don't take my word for it, he literally did refer to himself as a messiah. He went from being a religious family man to calling
I have that
himself
too.
the
Worship me.
reincarnation
All of you worship
Jesus
me now.
Christ. In 1975, Applewhite and Nettles persuaded a group of 20 people from Oregon to abandon their families and possessions and move to eastern Colorado, where they were promised that an extraterrestrial spacecraft would take them to the kingdom of heaven. Nettles, who called herself T, and Applewhite, who took the name Do, explained that human bodies were merely containers that could be abandoned in favor of a higher physical existence. Some sources say the group grew to be over 80 in numbers at this point, and that Marshall and Bonnie, I'm not calling them Do and T, I won't be able to take this seriously if I do.
And we thank you for it. Thank you. Yeah, Do and T. Do and T. D-O and T-I. I don't know about that. If somebody gave me that as my name, I'd be like, I'm out. Give me a better name.
But they witnessed the end of time.
Duty. You guys are like... you guys are so bad. You guys... you guys. Okay, everyone get your 10-year-old laughs out now, okay? Get your giggles out. Duty. God, you guys are so naughty.
That's at least what they say. Some 80-plus members apparently gathered at a hotel in Oregon in haste in 1975 and sold all their material goods and then disappeared without a trace. The group began sleeping in tents, panhandling on the streets, and traveled state to state, growing as they did. It was like a giant, horrible game of Snake. And this is where the weird parts start to come in, and we're talking aliens level weird. One article on the topic says that it's important not to see UFOs.
That's the part that we want to get into, is like, that's so weird. It's like, how do you get the aliens part? I don't know. Let's see.
And the flying saucer light we're used to in order to better understand the tragedy to come. Instead, at the time, UFOs were seen in an almost spiritual light, and multiple UFO cults broke out around this time too. Seriously, as strange as the words UFO cult sound, Marshall was far from being the only one. One 1997 paper lists the Wallace Halsey's Christ Brotherhood, the association of Sanandra and Sanat Kumara, made famous by Leon Festinger, Henry W. Riken, and Stanley Schachter in When Prophecy Fails, 1955, and George King's Aetherius Society, founded in 1955. Today, the Uranius Movement, which expects salvation in 2001, guess they were wrong, and the Realians, who say that in 2035 is a more likely date, are most influential among these movements. More recently...
Salvation in 2001? Yeah, 2001, salvation did not come, okay? The early 2000s were the worst era in human fashion possible. The early 2000s, we dressed horribly. We all did. There was no salvation. It was utter hell. I'm so glad it's over with.
UFO beliefs gained ground among fundamentalist Christians through the writing of men like Tex Mars and Gary North, who give UFOs a demonic spin to create what he called to be anti-UFO cults based on cosmic conspiracy theories that threaten their version of Christianity.
Oh god, low-ride jeans. Seriously, I'm so happy high-rise jeans are back now. I have my jeans all the way up to my fucking nipples. Love it. Just zip my gut away. Just zip, gone. Tucked in.
Behind all of these movements and beliefs lies a mythology of creation which rejects evolution as a scientific concept, but, except in the fundamentalist case, cannot return to a biblical view of creation. Therefore, UFOs become both a vehicle of creation, providence, and final salvation in a spiritualized universe which resembles early Gnosticism. Modern Gnostics...
Wait a minute. I am missing the jump from UFOs to Gnosticism. With a vehicle of creation, providence, and salvation in a spiritualized universe. So they're trying to say like UFOs are sort of like confused to like more like I don't want to start describing it with Hyperion terminology because I don't want to start making sense of it that way, but it's like, oh, it's not an actual like metal saucer. It's like they are vehicles, but they're like immaterial in a way.
Described by Kurt Rudolph in his classic studies of the topic. And if you have no idea what the fuck I just said, don't worry, I'm not even 100% sure that I do either.
Okay, good.
Trying to make sense of these beliefs is extremely difficult for me, and
we're all on the same page then.
This isn't really a mindset that I understand. Even the Heavens website itself doesn't make things much simpler. They state that 2,000 years ago, a crew of members of the Kingdom of Heaven who are responsible for nurturing gardens determined that a percentage of the human plants of the present civilization of this garden, Earth, had developed enough that some of those bodies might be ready to be used as containers for soul deposits.
Wait a minute, what? Are they trying to say that, like, plants are containers for monads?
And again, I don't really 100% know what that means. Believe me, I tried to get it, guys. I really did. But I can only dive so far down the depths of the internet before I start losing my mind.
Yeah, yeah, don't. When you start to think in circles, it's time to unironically put down the electronics and go outside for a walk. Walk the dog.
Point is, they firmly believed in spirit possession, negative space aliens, the occult, UFOs, and space aliens just in general. And hey, if that's something you want to believe in, you do you.
Okay, but you know what? Here's something weird that just popped into my head. Okay, when I was really little, I don't know if anybody else did this, and again, hello, I'm just like a little kid, so I'm not trying to assign too much to this, but like when I was really little, I was like afraid of people in the sky. I don't know how to describe it. We're talking like maybe 3 to 5 years old. I was afraid of sky people, so I couldn't be like, I always had to be in the house or like under like an awning or like something or under the porch so like the sky people wouldn't see me. I don't know. Oh my god, Jinkos. Yeah, I totally had a pair of those bitches. No, did I? No, not Jinkos. No, I had a pair of Jinkos. No. I wanted one. I had plenty of trip pants. Bondage pants. That's for damn sure.
Got no idea what's out there in the galaxy. I don't think anyone can definitively say they have the answer. My problem isn't so much their fringe beliefs or even the pair claiming to be aliens themselves.
Oh yes, I had Lee pipes. I totally had Lee pipes. Yes. Pipe pants. Back in the day when we all just like wore skater clothing and like half of us didn't even have a skateboard.
The real issue lies in how they impose those beliefs on others and what they did with this so-called information. Bonnie Nettles actually died of cancer in 1985, which is 10 years after this group took off, if that's what you want to call it. And this seemed to be the catalyst for things getting worse for Marshall. Not only did he lose his co-leader, but members of the group began to reject the earlier belief of biological metamorphosis when their bodies would chemically transform into extraterrestrial forms. Which, what a sentence. This is a strange belief for me, but when one of your founders, your leaders, whatever, die and it doesn't come true for her, well, I'd imagine it's faith-shaking. According to The Conversation, instead, they now envisioned abandoning their human bodies on Earth and transferring their consciousness through unspecified technological spiritual means into new extraterrestrial next-level bodies.
No, that's just lame. Okay, here's the thing. In Hyperianism, it's like your monad connects to a new body, okay? You're born, you live your life, And it's like the idea is like you're here in your body to learn things and grow and evolve over time. Evolution, in case you haven't noticed, takes a really long, fucking unbelievable time before you see anything like crazy results. You know? I mean, humans have been on Earth for like how long? Only a short amount of time. We've come a long ways. Don't get me wrong, we've come a long ways from the monkey days, but like when you live a nice, healthy, fruitful life in your avatar and you naturally pass away and move on, you will connect to a new avatar. And yes, perhaps you'll be more advanced and evolved then because, you know, it's all about collecting knowledge and stuff in your head. It's not like you'll be born and you'll remember everything, but I would assume you'd have more of an intuitional grasp of reality and your place in reality from what you've learned in the past. It's more of like a subconscious thing coming out and peeking through, and you have to remember it again. Just like now, I feel like a lot of the knowledge I'm learning, not about like UFOs and stuff, but like, you know, about the source and stuff, source of reality, ontological mathematics. This is stuff where I'm just like, oh, I feel like I did know this at one point. It's about remembering who I really am. But in no way, shape, or form is it ever in any way like, oh yeah, we're in these bodies now, and then you drink the special punch, and then we go to the next body. Like, no, don't do that. If anybody suggests that, run away. Run away. Absolutely. Run away. Also, on the note of evolution, I just want to say real fast, and I don't want to get off topic, but I just want to say real fast. Sharks creep me out because sharks have been evolutionarily like perfect for millions of fucking years. Like the shark design is perfect and it doesn't need to evolve anymore. They've just been that way. Like it's just it's scary, right? Okay, moving on.
Some members came to believe that they were actually space aliens, that they'd taken on human forms to learn about life on our planet, though this belief appears to not have been universally shared. The group experimented with unusual diets and sex. Some male members, including Marshall, were castrated. Some members got jobs using fake names. They made videos like Beyond Human: The Last Call that were broadcast in the 90s.
See, I think this is where, like, sometimes trolls of ours will say that, at Hyperians, they'll be like, don't drink the Kool-Aid, or, like, you know, I'm getting, because I think it's, like, this makes me so mad when people take, like, cool things and, like, make it, like, super fucking crazy, but it's, like, just the basic concept of, like, yes, we were all meant to grow and evolve and become beyond human. Like, that's something I say often, but this literally takes it too far. So somebody else that sees that, and then we say the term, like, just the very simple phrase beyond human, and then it's like, oh, it's just another, like, Heaven's Gate cult. It's like, fuck you, dude.
Took out ads with headlines like UFO cult resurfaces with final offer. And by 1996, they actually operated a successful computer business and lived in an exclusive neighborhood in Rancho Santa Fe, California. Seriously, you literally cannot make this shit up. However, it was the 1995 discovery of the comet Hale-Bopp that truly changed
Hale-Bopp?
things.
I thought it was just Hale-Bopp.
From that point on, Heaven's Gates members were convinced that this was the alien spacecraft that they were looking for, hidden from human detection by this comet. They encouraged others to join them, saying it was the last chance to evacuate Earth before it's recycled. The 6 points Marshall posted and continued to stand when recruiting people were, I and my partner, Bonnie, before she passed, are the evolutionary level above human, and we took over 2 human bodies in their 40s, which have been tagged at birth as vehicles for our use.
Oh my god. That is insane.
We brought a crew of students to Earth with us from the Kingdom of Heaven. Many of us arrived in staged crashes of spaceships, and authorities confiscated some of our bodies.
Like Roswell shit?
Others came before us to tag our bodies.
Yeah, Zero's, like, I think the crocodiles have stayed the same since the Jurassic period, too. Yeah, crocodiles, alligators, like, stuff like that. Like, these fucking ancient creatures that have just not evolved very much. But, yeah. Was I a shark once? Had to be.
Bodies with special chips. Before our human incarnation, we were briefed by older beings with details about how to take over the human vehicle. The kingdom of God is genderless, multiplying through metamorphosis, and it's
Yeah, see, here's where the weird thing is, where it's like, where they got into the castration and stuff. The kingdom of God is genderless, multiplying through metamorphosis, and its inhabitants have free will. I mean, monads themselves, like, don't have, like, an intrinsic gender to them. But that's not the same as saying everybody's genderless. I mean, gender is literally it's a fucking archetype, essentially. It's just what you put on for your lifetime.
inhabitants have free will. As ridiculous as it sounds, people truly did take Marshall at his word and obeyed him for all of these years without any proof whatsoever. As Gizmodo put it, the remaining members had already chopped off their hair, donned matching androgynous uniforms, and in a few cases subjected themselves to castration. Their corporeal forms were minimalized to the absolute essentials and made as uniform as possible. After all, if they wanted to prepare for the intermittent next level, they were going to need...
See, that's what I don't get. That's what I don't get. That's what I don't get. If your body now is just bullshit and you need to, like, transcend get into your new body right away, like, why would you have to alter or prepare your current avatar so much? That makes no fucking sense. I mean, none of this makes sense, and you shouldn't try to make sense of it, but like, that's just one thing where I'm just like, like, why give a shit? Like just whatever, everybody grow your pubes out, who cares?
to stifle their human urges as much as possible. There was no privacy, no sex, no freedom from routine. Essentially, there was no individuality whatsoever. The members lived together with the ultimate goal of becoming a singular buzzing hive, primed for entry into the great beyond, whenever that might come.
Ew, that's creepy. I don't want to look like everybody else. I don't want to act like everybody else. I don't want to march like everybody else. Like, that, you don't have to do all that shit just to be on the same page, for fuck's sakes.
And that entry into the great beyond arrived on March 21st, 1997. Marshall and his followers had a last supper at a restaurant, all ordering turkey pot pie, cheesecake with blueberries, and an iced tea. A day or two later, when the comet was closest to the planet, they drank vodka and barbiturates, committing mass suicide.
Dang.
On March 26, the bodies were found all dressed the same with covered purple shrouds. When the news of Heaven's Gate deaths broke, many people were shocked and horrified by the mass suicide. The media showed clips from a rambling video that Applewhite made shortly before the suicides, explaining their mission and encouraging others to follow.
Oh, that's interesting. So this weird-ass shit that we're watching right here is, like,
Remarkable.
literally their last
My
message
father
to the
came
world.
with me this time. Came in the early 70s, took on a human form and adult.
Weird.
Members also recorded exit videos, but these did little to comfort the families of the followers or help the world at large understand their drastic, unfathomable actions. One book called The Copycat Effect even claims that on March 22nd, 39 members of Heaven's Gate, 21 women and 18 men, consumed phenobarbital, some suffocating with plastic bags,
Phenobarbital.
all dying by suicide. All were dressed exactly alike. The 39 had packed tote bags, and each had one $5 bill and 75 cents in quarters in his or her pocket. The deaths occurred...
Why would you need money? That's so weird. Like, what the weird fucking river Styx, like, 2 coins on the eye shit is this?
in shifts, so those who remained could correctly arrange the bodies and place the purple triangular shrouds on the bodies. And yeah, the easiest first reaction here is that's some pretty fucked up shit. The whole committing suicide as a group is one thing, but doing it in shifts makes it just like, it takes it to another level of tragic, shocking, and...
That's weird. It's not like everybody did it at once. It's like there was like shifts, so... Because you need someone to like help you administer it and prepare you and put you down. Oh my god, that's fucking insane.
Horrifying, and I don't really know what else to say about it. I've seen more despicable beliefs and torture come out of NXIVM, but this mass suicide element really does truly disturb me. It changes what was once a laughable, cutesy, little goofy UFO cult into something that had dangerous propositions and that people actually took those things. And that's the thing. There's not all that much information about why this happened and how it got so blown out of proportion. There's just nothing. This group literally kept to themselves and just fed off one another until
No, this is in North America. This is in
they
California.
ended everything. It's not even clear where Marshall Applewhite even got the idea that there was a UFO behind the Hale-Bopp comet to begin with.
Yeah.
Some blame Art Bell, a conspiracy theorist and radio host who publicized the delusion, but even then, he couldn't have possibly known what Marshall would have done with this information.
See, I remember that too. I remember that the rumor going around that there was a UFO behind the comet, but then there was like a period of time where it's like you didn't hear anything about the weird cult stuff till later. But I already knew about that, so I think I was already scared about that. And then just like seeing these people dead because of it really solidified how much I didn't want to like be involved with UFOs as a kid.
And once again, this is just speculation, but I think Marshall realized he needed to prove himself, and since Bonnie died, things started to fall apart again. This little community he built was based around an ideology that he needed to prove. Maybe he was grasping at straws, and this felt like one solid thing to hold on to, this comet. Applewhite's son, Mark Applewhite, even stepped forward when all of this happened, denouncing his father's actions. You'd think that if someone may be able to sense the 39 deaths, including his father, it would be Mark. But it all seems so senseless. Mark knew little about the cult to begin with, even though he was Marshall's own son. Even former members didn't shed much light on the topic. Some said, for the 8 men in the cult, including Applewhite, who submitted to surgical castration, the decision made perfect sense once they had firmly decided to become celibate. Why not end the battle with the sex drive, the former member says. I'm real glad now I didn't do it, but it's not as bizarre as people think it is. The members were assigned partners with whom they were supposed to do everything, eat, sleep, work, all during the day. To ensure that no one got too friendly, to say nothing of becoming romantically involved, the leaders rotated partners regularly. They set you up with the partner you'd be least likely to be attracted to, said Leslie Light, now 48, and a therapist in Fallbrook, California, who was in the cult briefly in 1975. They put me with this crazy street person.
Wow. Why would you agree? That just sounds so miserable. Like, thank God for freedom of diversity and expression, Jesus Christ.
Or those who did stay, Applewhite made it a point to provide numerous, if carefully chosen, opportunities for relaxation and entertainment. Dick Jocelyn, 48, concedes that though he enjoyed himself as a member, it was not always the most stimulating experience. Sometimes it got pretty boring, he says, especially when you were waiting 10 years for the spacecraft to come down. Which is why 7 years ago he elected to drop out of the group. Like other apostles, he was treated with respect, not scorn. He was given a bus ticket home to Florida and a soothing word from Applewhite.
Cassie, well, this cult's kind of getting crazy, but I already shaved my head and castrated myself, so I guess we're in it now.
He said he understood. Certainly, he understood that whenever someone left, there always seemed to be a new recruit available for initiation. I think, if anything, this is why Heaven's Gate may not have been seen as a threat. Even though they were clearly dangerous and ultimately fatal, they did seem to fly under the radar. There are very few articles out before the mass suicide happened, and even then, between 1985 and 1997, it's just waiting and very quiet manipulations.
Yeah, that's
With
really
Nexium,
weird.
there's far less gaps between the years, and the whole thing was horrific and lasted about...
I don't know what Nexium is. I literally have never heard of that. I have no idea. Maybe that'll be a next
a
exploration.
decade, whereas this one ended in absolute tragedy, but wasn't extreme the entire way. Though, I mean, yes, the castration part most certainly is, but for the most part, the 20 years that this cult existed, it was quiet and unassuming. And to some degree, that's maybe why I think it wasn't taken seriously. The thing to note here is that cults aren't always aggressive and demanding and in your face trying to recruit you in. Granted, I don't know what happened behind closed doors, and it could have been a far worse situation than any of us will ever really know. But they can most definitely appear to be a small spiritual community that slowly pushes its beliefs further and further until, well, 39 people commit mass suicide as a result. Some sources go on to argue that Heaven's Gate even adopted a culture of conspiracy, as historian Michael Barkin calls it. This divides the world between evil forces secretly conspiring among another true believers aware of the conspiracies and the mindless masses who operate without awareness of the truth. While Barkan focuses on the religious and
I hate conspiracy theories. Like, I find conspiracy theories entertaining and I'll dabble in them and I'll go down a rabbit hole, but honestly, at the heart of it, I really fucking hate conspiracy theories because people just put their whole soul in it. They put all their eggs in that basket and it just ruins it for the rest of us, okay? Stop it.
cultural margins, today the same elements are arguably at work in American political discourse, whether it's talk of secret government wiretaps, a deep state, or cover-ups within the scientific community on topics ranging from vaccines to climate change. Many of these conspiracy theorists are laughed off and pushed away and ostracized, and I'm not saying any stock should be put in a lot of these crazy theories out there, but many of these sources in my research do speculate that it's those feelings as an outsider that contributes to why these tragedies happen in the first place. I feel like if Marshall had gotten help after his first divorce and his father's passing and to understand his whole identity.
See, she's talking about that moment I was talking about. That very pinnacle moment where he got, like, the divorce or stuff, and then, like, dad died, and then had the near-death experience. Like, if people can get the appropriate, reasonable help at the right time, it can prevent this kind of hysteria from happening.
Identity crisis a bit better, this may not have even happened in the first place. But make no mistake, this is not me giving him an excuse for what he led and what he ultimately.
Mark says Nixium was a racketeering and sex trafficking operation with cultic elements and inducements? Oh my lord. Why do people have to be so fucked up? You know, sometimes I just don't get that. You ever notice how humans are just, like, weird and dark? Like, they're just like, I'm bored. I'm gonna go, like, brutally mutilate somebody for fun. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know. I just like to have a snack or go for a walk or something. I don't know why people have to get into these dark-ass hobbies of just, like, destroying and demolishing and mutilating each other. Jesus Lord, why?
Led others to do as well. He, being deluded, pushed others into his delusion of beliefs and into killing themselves. I can only imagine where those people's minds were to take him at his word, or the families that suffered, losing a loved one from this. Newsweek, on the other hand, took an entirely different perspective to this. They summarized the events in 1997 and said the following. Applewhite was driven by sexual demons, the son of a Presbyterian minister who wandered around Texas.
Here we go. Here we go, we got it. The son of a Presbyterian minister. There we go. Sexual demons. Oh my god. Yeah, I'm all about sexual demons.
Applewhite had been blessed with good looks and a powerful singing voice. As a music professor at the University of Alabama in the 1960s, he helped cut an album with the Crimson Tide fight song and seemed to enjoy life as a family man with a wife and 2 kids. But the marriage broke up and Applewhite left Alabama amid whispers of a homosexual affair. In that place and in that time, a homosexual, their wording, not mine, would feel alienated indeed. He got a job teaching music in the late 60s at the University of St. Thomas, a small Roman Catholic school in Houston, where he produced upbeat musicals including Little Mary Sunshine. But college records show that Applewhite left in 1970 for health problems of an emotional nature. Suffering from depression and shame, hearing voices, he checked into a hospital asking.
So he was hearing voices? So, like, I don't know, because, like, hearing voices doesn't necessarily mean, like, you're schizophrenic. Like, people under extreme, like, mental and emotional pressure can just, like, hallucinate shit. But, like, yeah, this seems like it's so sad. Like, this guy, it doesn't excuse what the fuck he did, but, like, he didn't get the help he needed. He didn't get the right insertion of reason in his life. And obviously is hideously ashamed of himself for being a homosexual. I feel it's almost like instead of exploring the shadow of homosexuality, he just decided to start a cult about aliens, or get involved with a cult about aliens and convince people to off themselves.
Be cured of his homosexual desires. He told his sister he had suffered a near-death experience after a heart attack, but he may actually have suffered from a drug overdose, according to Ray Hill, a radio talk show host in Texas who knew Applewhite at the time. He was kind of a Timothy Leary type, said Hill. It was during this anguished time that he met his true life's companion, Bonnie Lou Truesade Nettles, a nurse who dabbled in astrology and far-out religious movements. Bonnie left her...
Watch out for those girls in astrology. Sorry, I'll say it. Watch out for them gals in that astrology. Don't be giving them your birth date.
Her husband and 4 children and headed for the hills with Applewhite. The relationship was
I'm
apparently
joking, I'm not.
platonic. The two wished to shed
Don't actually get after me. Like, I'm just throwing shit out there.
all base desires. They had discovered that they had been infused with a higher heavenly spirit. I'm not saying we are a Jesus, it is not that beautiful, but it is almost as big, Nettles wrote to her daughter Terry, then 20, in a letter examined by Newsweek. I'm not kidding, baby, this is for real. This was Newsweek in 1997, and obviously a lot, including the wording, has changed, but it definitely reads like a trashy gossip column so far. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but a lot of these may have suffered from a drug overdose, and hearing voices things are just rumors, and they aren't things I could confirm. Still, I do want to try and give every perspective when I can, because it's not as if I can even be sure what really happened here. Maybe this was a drug overdose for all I know. Eventually, the members became increasingly paranoid about an attack by the government. The indifference of the public at large to the cult was the signal to us to begin our preparations to return home, said a cult communique on the internet. The weeds of humanity had taken over Earth's garden. It was time to go to the level above, or what humans call dead. Learning of a UFO 4 times the size of Earth in the wake of Hale Bopp, Heaven's Gate decided that their beloved T must be coming earthward to collect them. As the comet brightened in the sky in mid-March, as Holy Week approached, the cultists got ready to shed their earthly containers. They celebrated with a last supper of chicken pot pie and a cheesecake. And again, regardless of the in-between, the ending is all the same. 39 people died, believing that they were shedding earthly containers. The whole event has been
People died because of beliefs.
referenced in everything from Family Guy to rap songs to movies, so I really found this to be a subject that was worth talking about and finding out the true origins as far as I could see about what actually happened. So, with all of that being said, that's where I'm going to end today's video. I really hoped you all enjoyed it. I know this is not...
Yay! We like Illuminati. The only Illuminati I like. But yeah, no, that's really weird. It just sounds like, again, you see how everything just relates back to shadow work? Like shadow work, power self work, integrating your power self, integrating your mirror self. Yeah. It doesn't do any good to swallow things deep down, because it's not going to help you evolve and become the best version of yourself possible in the long run. It's not. And that's kind of that's the whole point with inner star actualization in Hyperianism, is to break down yourself simply in a philosophical, rational way, and start integrating parts of yourself, start working on yourself, start noticing parts of yourself, noticing how the way you think and the way you feel affects your decision making, and how that decision making affects your life, and how that decision making based on your thoughts and feelings either gives you or takes away opportunities for you to grow. I mean, some would say it's called becoming a well-adjusted monad, I guess. Let's see. I'm talking about the issue where, like, people get weird, and when they get bored, they get, like, weird and violent. I get angry. And we're not perfect. We're not, like, righteous angels, like, precious, perfect angels. Like, we all have the thoughts. We all want to punch someone in the face sometimes. We all have fantasies of, like, offing somebody. Like, we all have that. Like, we all have those moments. But, like, you got to deal with your anger in a healthy way. You can't let your anger override your reason and overtake your mouth, your tongue, your fingers, and everything you do and say and type. It's not going to help you in the long run. Anger is a very powerful tool. It's a very powerful tool. It's not in itself bad. Anger is an indication that something needs to change. But it's that change, it's reason, that determines what that change is, how it's going to come, and what it's going to be. So, I deal with anger by aggressive exercise. Running, punching, kicking. Um, there's so many different things you can do. It's like you don't have to swallow it down and tell yourself, don't be angry. Be angry. Be angry. Punch a pillow. Throw rocks at a wall or something. Like do something to take the energy, the physical energy in your body at that moment, to transfer it somewhere else where it's not going to hurt you or anybody else. Like punching bag or something. Scream into a pillow. Like, it's okay to be angry. It's not okay to give away or give up responsibility over your anger just because you're angry. You still have a responsibility towards yourself and your actions. So, anyways, my friends, thank you so much for coming. I see some have popped into the room. Let's see. Kim, thank you for coming. MC Heavy said, thank you for coming. If I haven't said hello to you, please let me know. Thank you so much to our moderators. Let's get our music going back up as we say goodbye. Thank you to our moderators, Cassie and Philip. Thank you so much for helping our chat room stay healthy. And Susan, thank you for listening and being there for us. And I really appreciate you guys coming, and thank you so much to my patrons and everything. And oh yeah, if you want to become a patron, you can and get instant access to our Discord server where you can talk a little bit more personally with me. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Go to patreon.com/JenEricksonOfficial. Become a patron. I go live now. I am going live Mondays at 4. Wednesdays at 6 and Fridays at 6, all West Coast time. So, Wednesday we will be going live at 6 p.m. and it will be our Worldview Wednesdays. We will be catching up on political issues and ethical issues and shit like that. So, I look forward to seeing you then. Till then, have a beautiful rest of your evening and have a good Tuesday, and we'll see you Wednesday evening. Goodbye, everybody. Oh, and I believe Morg might be going live here next, so yeah, if y'all are going to be in that live, I will see you there. So anyways, good night. Goodbye.